You are not walking into a ruin. You are walking into a graveyard that never stopped breathing. Every stone here remembers something it was never meant to tell. The air is heavy, not with dust, but with the memory of screams buried for 2,000 years. Forget the museum brochures. Forget the bright postcards of frescoes and courtyards. What lies under this ash is not a city. It's a confession carved in stone. Pompeii did not fall to nature alone. It collapsed under the weight of its own cruelty. The volcano did not erase a civilization. It embalmed one, sealing its corruption like an insect in amber. So when you enter these narrow streets, don't look with the eyes of a tourist. Look with the eyes of a witness. Behind every painting of laughter lies a body that never stopped trembling. Behind every temple was a trade in flesh. The city's pulse beat to the rhythm of power, money, and domination. Historians call it culture. Guides call it art. But what you will see is the most organized form of depravity the ancient world ever built. A society that turned sex into a weapon and pleasure into punishment. The brothel was its beating heart. From the outside, it looked ordinary, a small building of stone tucked behind the marketplace. But step through its doorway and you walk into a machine built for despair. The air still feels thick with sweat and candle smoke, with that sour perfume of old fear. The rooms are small, windowless, each containing a single stone bed carved into the wall. And on those walls, paintings, bright, detailed, disturbingly proud. They are not decorations, they are instructions. A menu for the powerful, a catalogue of humiliation. Each number scratched beside an image matched a price. Number 4. Number 9. Your coin bought a specific act, a specific horror, performed on a living soul who had no name anymore. The women inside these rooms weren't citizens. Most were slaves captured from conquered lands. Greeks, Syrians, Gauls, even children sold by desperate families. The law called them property. The men who came here called them entertainment. The empire called it business. But the truth is simpler. This was an altar where human dignity was sacrificed daily to the god of control. And the graffiti that covers the walls, the crude jokes, the carved names, they're not innocent relics. They're the victory cries of predators. They scream the same message again and again. I was here. I conquered. I destroyed. This wasn't an isolated vice. It was the foundation of Roman life. The same men who preached virtue in the forum knelt here in the dark. Magistrates, senators, soldiers, they all came to feed an addiction that went deeper than lust. They didn't crave bodies. They craved obedience. In their public lives, they were bound by laws and appearances. In these rooms, they were gods. Every whimper, every tear confirmed their divinity. Every broken spirit was proof of their power. Their cruelty wasn't madness, it was maintenance. A way to remind themselves that they ruled the world because they could crush it one person at a time. By day, they wore spotless white togas and gave speeches about morality. By night, they turned human flesh into their canvas. They needed these walls, this silence, this stage where they could act out the fantasies of control denied to them in daylight. The pain they inflicted wasn't an accident, it was ritual, and the city accepted it. Slavery wasn't a secret shame, it was an economy. Ships arrived at the harbor not only with wine and oil, but with chained human cargo. Men and women stripped of their names, branded and sold like tools. Their suffering built the luxury the city flaunted. To the Romans, a slave had the same legal value as a chair, something to use, break, and discard. And when historians today describe this as a social institution, they polish the chains until they shine. They hide the stench beneath marble words. But listen closely, the echo beneath the stones still carries the truth. The empire demanded purity from its noble women while it devoured the bodies of the powerless. The contradiction wasn't hypocrisy. It was design. The family, the temple, the brothel, each was part of the same system. Honor on the surface, horror underneath, the infections spread. When cruelty becomes routine, it stops shocking. Soon the appetite needed something stronger. Private brutality turned public. The elites of Pompeii began hosting dinner entertainments, where slaves acted out scenes from mythology. A myth of rape became a performance. A legend of sacrifice became a live execution. The guests clapped. The hosts drank. The line between story and reality dissolved in the laughter of the powerful. A woman forced to couple with an animal. A man mutilated in rhythm to music. It was all theater, and the audience, numb from repetition, called it beauty. This was the moment the city lost its soul. The brothel's philosophy had infected every villa, every feast. Suffering became spectacle. Pain became art. They no longer hid their depravity. They flaunted it as proof of sophistication. To them, compassion was weakness and pity was a disease. They were training themselves to feel nothing, building immunity to empathy. In that immunity lay their damnation. Then came the final experiment. A senator, a man the city worshipped as a living god, rented the brothel for a private night. This was not pleasure. It was study. The air hung thick with smoke and fear. The senator and his circle played a game, bronze tokens, each engraved with a specific act. A toss of the coin decided who would endure what. The slaves were the pieces. The rules were simple, pain without limit. They observed every reaction, the tremor before a scream, the silence after one. They took notes like surgeons dissecting nerves. Their fascination wasn't the act itself, but the process of breaking another human being apart, piece by piece. There was no chaos here, no frenzy. It was quiet, cold, calculated. The laughter was measured. The eyes were clear. They weren't losing control. They were perfecting it. They wanted to understand terror as if it was science. How much pain until the body stops fighting? How much humiliation until the soul dissolves? These were their questions. Their cruelty was methodical, their satisfaction sterile. The brothel had become a laboratory, and in that laboratory they reinvented evil, not as rage or desire, but as order. When the night ended, there were no prayers, no remorse, only silence. The kind of silence that follows an execution. In that stillness, something larger than any man was born. The idea that you could strip humanity away and call it civilization. That you could legalize horror and call it progress. That you could wrap atrocity in art and call it culture. Then one day, the mountain woke up. The ground shuddered. The sky turned black. And the city that had feasted on others' agony finally faced its own annihilation. But don't mistake the eruption for justice. Nature has no morality. Vesuvius didn't punish the wicked. It simply buried the evidence. The ash didn't cleanse the city. It preserved it. Every room, every mural, every frozen body became a photograph of corruption. A crime scene sealed in volcanic glass. Centuries later, we dug it up. We brushed away the ash. And what did we do? We put velvet ropes around the beds. We took pictures of the murals. We built ticket booths and called it tourism. We stared at the instruments of exploitation and called them artifacts. We remembered the architecture and forgot the agony. The victims became curiosities. The tormentors became figures of history. We turned a graveyard into a museum. And in doing so, we repeated their sin. Because what the Romans did with flesh, we do with memory. We sanitize it, we label it, we sell it. We keep the beauty and hide the rot. We call it culture, but the poison that powered Pompeii never died. It seeped into every empire that followed. The idea that power justifies cruelty, the belief that some lives are less than others, the assumption that exploitation can be civilized. The brothel was not a side note of Rome, it was its prototype. Its logic runs through our history, through our institutions, through us. Look around the modern world and tell me the machine is gone. It's not. It's disguised. We still buy comfort built on invisible suffering. We still applaud power while ignoring pain. We still invent stories to excuse what we choose not to see. The walls of Pompeii whisper that civilization doesn't progress, it perfects its masks. The volcano gave us a gift, a snapshot of humanity at its worst, frozen so we could learn from it. But we didn't. We admired the art and missed the message. The true relic of Pompeii isn't its ruins, it's the reflection staring back at us. The same hunger, the same indifference, the same need to dominate. The faces have changed. The ritual hasn't. So when you stand in those rooms and trace the faded lines of a fresco, remember this. It's not an image of pleasure. It's a map of power. Every curve, every gesture, every number carved into the wall was someone's suffering turned into decoration. Those beds are altars. Those paintings are prayers to a god that never died. Power without empathy. Pompeii wasn't destroyed by fire. It was destroyed long before that, by appetite, by arrogance, by the slow corrosion of the human heart. The eruption merely sealed the verdict. And if you listen, really listen, beneath the tourist chatter and the camera clicks, you can still hear the whisper that rises from beneath the ash. We are still here. Pompeii wasn't destroyed by lava, it was destroyed by itself. The volcano only buried what human cruelty had already killed, compassion. Its ruins remind us that the moment we turn pain into pleasure or people into property, civilization begins to rot from the inside. Empires don't fall because of nature. They fall because they lose their soul. Every generation builds its own Pompeii, in sweatshops, in silence, in systems that trade lives for comfort. The moral isn't about the past. It's about the present. Power without empathy always leads to ash. If this story made you think twice about the world we live in, don't forget to like this video. It helps more people uncover the truth buried beneath the surface. Share it so history's whispers can be heard again. And comment below, what do you think destroyed Pompeii first, the volcano or the people? Finally, subscribe to Dark History of Vikings for more untold stories of human darkness, because the past never stays buried. It just waits to be remembered.